Hello, folks. We're back again with another weekly after a crazy week in cryptocurrency that I think it means something good. And you might think I'm nuts, and that's fine. You can think I'm crazy. I think it's good. I actually think this is really good. I believe that what we saw, and it depends on the people, right? The kids that say the word jeet and say the word keck are not going to support what I'm talking about. I'm saying on the serious tip, I believe if we can hold momentum, this actually means a good thing. It means that we're on the right track for what needs to happen going forward. It's going to really depend on people at this point. Now, let me explain what I'm talking about because I know that the graph seems to contradict what I just said. Follow me here. To do that, let's first just see where we're at. And I'm using Ethereum as my governance with this. Ethereum is in a downward trend. I'm okay with it being in a downward trend. I covered on the podcast side, cryptotalkradio.net, about Ethereum's downward trend and my speculation as to what was the trigger for the downward trend we were seeing. And I said that most likely the miners who miners who were sitting on cryptocurrency, Ethereum, and other types of tokens they were mining under proof of work, I believe they basically dumped their bags because of what happened in the merge, which the merge was successful to move to a proof of stake world. And so in the proof of work, that was their source of income, their profit. And many of them were sitting on the tokens and either doing pump and dump sells or they were selling during the bull. During the bear period, some of them may have dumped off, but I think many of them just kind of held to wait and see what was going to happen and also see if there was going to be any alternatives. We did see some upstart alternatives come up. I don't think they're going to last, in my opinion. One of them, ETHPLW, that one actually started jumping. It got 120 million in volume, mostly because of FOMO. People saw a low entry price and they started jumping on this business. It's the current number one contender in what used to be proof of work for Ethereum and its potential replacement. I don't think it's going to last. I could get it wrong, but I don't think it's going to last. We saw Ethereum Classic get a few pumps here and there, couldn't sustain, and that's mostly because Ethereum Classic is a nightmare of a chain. It doesn't really do anything. It's hard to work with it. Frankly, I don't think much of it. Having gone in, actually doing it, I wasn't sold. And so will these ETHPLW and other ones, will they last? Will they do something? I have no idea. I'm just saying, to me, I think everything that we're seeing with Ethereum, the dumps are happening because you're going to see more dump. And with the downward trend, I'm guessing there's going to be more people dumping their Ethereum because it's now proof of stake. I believe that after it hits a bottom, it's then going to go on a run. I think that run's going to take it higher than it ever's gone before. Just if you're following, it got very shy to $5,000 per coin during the bull run. But there was a lot underneath that. The NFT rush, which, as I covered on YouTube and on the podcast, ultimately, even the big wigs are saying people are tired of NFTs. The NFT minting was spiking some of that Ethereum due to demand. It was the only, at the time, it was the only way to mint NFTs was on the Ethereum initially. And then it was later that we got Solana and Polygon, et cetera. And those were much cheaper, which decreased the demand ever slightly. Well, once we got into this business of moving to a proof of stake, all of a sudden we started seeing that some people were having issues getting in. Gas prices of 200, 300. I think one person had like $1,000. Then there was one NFT and I forget what it was. And then all of a sudden when that one came out, the demand was so high. Somebody shared on social media that their gas quote was like $1,000 or some crazy number because it was just killing the business. That was one of the impetus behind moving away from the current that we were doing and getting to a little bit more stable. What am I summary saying? I'm saying that long term, I think the downward trend is good because number one, it's going to flesh out the people that really didn't care about Ethereum's future potential, only about profit. Number two, it lowers the barrier of entry for people to buy into Ethereum. We also need to look though at security and whether or not, because the going consensus has been that proof of stake is less secure than proof of work. That's been a theory that's been floating out there. However, we've seen many projects go to proof of stake without major issues. I would put Polygon in that list. They've had issues, but not anywhere near major. Solana had issues, but that's because of the way it's built. It's not because it's proof of stake or it's not. It's because the way it's built, they knew that they just rushed something out, capitalize on a thing, and then cause their own disruption. Ethereum is established, though. It's established. It's already known. There's already projects. It's already got project momentum. We have to see how that plays in the big picture for where it goes in the future. That's what I personally feel is going to be the game changer for that, is going to be, well, now that we have this, what does that really mean? And for everybody else that's in it, what's that do for your profit, right? And your ROI. Luna Classic. If you've been watching Luna Classic, you've seen that it's dipped and it's kindly wavering a little bit, but it's hitting its bottom resistance. We have to test it and it may go down further. Some people speculate it may go down as far as like 19,000. I think that's possible. And there are people that are a little bit freaked. Was this a once in a lifetime thing and it's not going to go anywhere else? And it's done. The rush is done. Was it a bull trap? Here's my thoughts on this Luna Classic business. I don't think it was a bull trap. I think what's happened in Luna Classic, and there's a lot of this, unfortunately, a lot of the exchanges encourage shorting. And because they encourage shorting, which is it's a profit-driven thing. What then happens is that you're causing this self-pressure just by nature of the shorting. Like, you're not doing it because you don't believe in the project. You're not doing it because you're trying to encourage other people to sell necessarily. But when you put in short, ultimately you are triggering a little bit of FOMO. You're triggering a little bit of red, and then some people might be tempted to sell, or some might sell just for profit reasons. They say it hit the pinnacle and I'm selling out for the profit because it's essentially in the mean status, or they might be waiting until just before when the burns start happening, or they might simply be getting out of it completely, buy back in at a lower price point because they know they can get more of them, which is smart. There's nothing wrong with this. I actually consider doing it myself. My bag there's a bag sitting in the wallet, and then I've got a bag sitting in the exchange. And the reason I did it that way is because the bag on the exchange is under a bot. And so the bot it's the best indicator about what I should do with the bag in the wallet. But I don't really, if I lose the bag that's in the exchange, which is a high risk, it's whatever, because the bag in the wallet will always be there. So some people are probably doing that too. There probably is this segment where they still have their bag that's off to the side, but they're also doing the trading over here. I can't say 100%. I am saying, in my opinion, I think there's more to this that portends, Portends, for good things, because it allows a price point for people to buy in, which makes more people buy in. It's a discount, right? If we can start seeing the green once it hits the bottom and it hits the green, FOMO should take over from there. I do think that the run up that we had was significant for what it was, but we knew that some people were going to be doing it for profit reasons. We knew that some people were just going to take the profits and run. Smart strategy, nothing wrong with it, got no problem with it. You have some people in cryptocurrency, again, the kids that use the word JEET, to use the word KEK, who they don't understand because they've been conditioned into the hold mentality. They don't understand, and I've tried to say it multiple times on the podcast, cryptotalkradio.net, as well as YouTube. Look, buys and sells are normal and expected. You should welcome them, not freak. But because of projects like Floki, projects like Kishu, projects like Cult, projects like Satama, projects like SHIB even, we have created this narrative that hold is the right answer. Hold was never the right answer. Volume is what makes things happen. Buy and sell. There are people out who wait for discounts. They might believe in the project. They're just not, it's not at the price they want to buy in. They're waiting for discounts. They want it to go low enough that they can buy in readily. That's where Ethereum is right now. Ethereum's at a price that's more reasonable than your near $5,000 a coin that it once was. That's going to encourage more people to buy more of it because it's cheaper to do so. This is normal supply and demand, though. Any pricing of anything, commodity or otherwise, has the same mantra. You want to have a price that makes sense for you. For the big whales, 5,000 makes sense for them. The counter argument had always been, you can just buy a little bit of a deep Satoshi level The problem with that is that in the mentality, right? Psychology, you see that I have one of a thing, or 1,000 of a thing, or 10,000 of a thing, or millions of a thing. Psychology hits. I now have wealth in the form of whatever it is. To your people who are new, who don't know any better, and I know, and you know, because everybody was like this. You get in, and the immediate thing is, I want to make sure I can buy at least one of a thing, because that's a fiat that's been coded in us from fiat. I can have $1, one quarter, one whatever, because that's coded. In crypto, we know that the Satoshi level calculation, decimals are perfectly fine. However, to us, it feels like we don't have a full of anything. Goes to this whole fractional shares business on the stock side, right? You can't own, let's say, a full Amazon because you don't have $2,500 to blow, but you have $500 to work with. So you can buy a fractional share, but you still don't own a share. You own a fraction of a share. Well, what's your ownership stake? And it's not satisfactory. The fractional shares allows you to get in, certainly, and benefit a little bit, but you're not going to be long-term value on it. The long-term value comes from holding whole number. Cryptocurrency tried to cheat this with the whole, millions and millions and billions and billions, trillions, of supply, so that somebody could buy what ends up being billions of dollars, tokens, but billions of dollars worth of a thing, but it's an illusion. It's smoke and mirrors. There's nothing real about it. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not legit. It's not true. So now, if I say, all right, this doesn't make sense to me and I'm not going to go with it, then what do I do about it? I don't know. I am saying, by and large, what we have to do now is recondition people into understanding this is really what it needs to be. This is really what we need to do, which is simply understand that a whole number is not going to be realistic in the short term. It might make sense in the long term, but cryptocurrency flexes. It allows you to do both. What do we do about that? I don't have an answer. I'm saying that when we see what's happening now with price decreases, everybody should at some point reconcile. It's a good thing. It's a good thing for discounts. Discounts are great. We want discounts. We want it to allow people to get in on the ground level and hit the ground running with a price that makes sense for them, because that's going to encourage more people to buy in. What's not, because of the way we've been conditioned. What's not is to start at a price point that simply doesn't make sense to people, and that's what we've done in the past. We have launched things that now it's too late. By the time you're in, it doesn't make sense to them, and that drives them away. This is outside the crypto bubble I'm describing. So I know there's some people in some communities who think I'm nuts. We've already seen the pattern. We've already seen the truth. Every bit of dollar is flowing back into these big players. The reason is because that's where the wealth's going to come back, because it's closest to the way outside people think in cryptocurrency. And I think it's going to be that way in the long term. So Luna Classics dips, I think, are healthy. I think are good. And I think they're going to set us on a path of good momentum at some point in the near future here, upward. Well, there's a little bit of problem from a community aspect. If you heard one of my YouTube videos, I said that community problems tend to lead to bearish sentiment because you have disruption. People aren't confident. Terror Rebels has a Discord channel. That's the vast majority of their communication. They have a lot of people in there. They have two sets of people, and people don't know this, but there's two sets of people in the Terror Rebels Discord. Set number one are the Luna Classic people that have been there the whole time, that they believe in it. It is what it is, whatever. But you also have the UST, the stablecoin holders, the people that held this. And there could be people in both, but largely you're talking two segments of audience. Luna Classic people, UST people. For those that don't know, they have a synergistic relationship between the two of them. They depend on each other to some degree. The price movement is largely interconnected. And unfortunately, the price of Luna, the shiny one, the new one, is also somewhat correlated because of arbitrage opportunities. The UST folks want to be made whole, because if you think about it, if I held 1,000 UST when this thing crapped, I held $1,000 worth of a thing. Right now, I might hold $5 to $50. They lost a lot because it was a stable coin. On the Luna Classic side, you have a lot of people that probably held, let's say, $1 million worth of a thing, which might have correlated to maybe 1,000-ish or whatever of Luna Classic. So they didn't have a lot of Luna Classic. They had a lot of value that was lost. UST, same thing, a lot of value. The question always had been with the Terror Rebels is we want to solve the proposals and make sure they're done. But we need to figure out a way to do it in a way that's healthy so it doesn't happen again, so we don't crap it again, because the whole destabilization of UST ultimately caused this business. Terror Rebels' whole mission has been to try to ultimately restore Luna Classic, but then there's also the side plan to restore UST and repeg it somehow to the US dollar in a way that's a little bit healthier. And then behind it, have Bitcoin to kind of support it. People have freaked about that. Why are we going back to Bitcoin? Why are we still trying to do that? That's what got us in this position. It's not really. What got us in this position is Do Rug Pull, aka Do Kwon, and his decisions, which he finally admitted. So the plan to repeg UST. Now you're starting to see the disconnect between the two groups. On the UST side, there has always been this chatter about burning Luna Classic in order to help repeg this over here. On the Luna Classic side, of course, we know about the burn and positive price movement there. So you would think, well, if UST benefits from burning Luna Classic, great, right? No, because the burn is only really going to help one side or another. If you just burn in a vacuum, we will see a little bit of positive on UST, but not to the full recovery they want. You'd have to do more of a burn, more aggressive of a burn. Doing a more aggressive of a burn might cause more damage on this side, or it might not give the profit potential that this side's really expecting in the long term. So that's the current disconnect. The second disconnect, and there's a group out there, and they're called Terror Rebels Alliance. It's actually one guy, by the way. Terror Rebels Alliance. He created this. He actually already existed. He turned his Twitter into this thing and started gathering a following. I want to point out the follower counts, following and followers being nearly identical. What this person did is reached out and started following a bunch of people off of Luna Classic when it started hyping. If you notice, the account's been around since long before the crash. So this is a person already in the ecosystem. We know that. Like I'm detailing what we can clearly see. This is a person already in the eco. At the point it crapped, they built this to try to support the Terror Rebels initiative. They tried to create a following to increase awareness and do updates. Well, this group then put out an announcement, quote, sad news, closing this Twitter account because I said that moderator on a meme channel of a Terror Rebels Discord group, that's the group I'm talking about, is a meme Nazi for being too strict and removing funny content, which got me banned. I am not supporting the acts of aggression. I'm going to ridicule the person who wrote this in two ways. And I hate having to do this, but it's necessary. It's mandatory. It's vital I do it. Let's break this down. First, quote, on a meme channel of a Terror Rebels Discord group is a meme Nazi. So what he's describing is that there's a channel that's allegedly dedicated to memes. If you don't know memes because you're an adult and I celebrate you for being this, a meme is nothing more than an image that is juxtaposed with some sort of text to add context that doesn't match the original, but it's to get your message out. And it's usually used when you're frustrated about something or you're trying to be funny. That's a meme by core definition. I am not aware of any channel in their Discord, their official Discord, that is dedicated to memes. I haven't seen it. I'm not saying it's not there, but I certainly have not seen such a channel. Second, I am not going to advocate ever memes in Discord. This is a person that's used to Telescam, where Telescam, that's all you see is a bunch of memes, whether it's the phony picture of Mia Khalifa looking shocked up at a thing, whether it's the Donald Duck with something poking out of a thing, whether it's the I think they're from Nigeria or something, carrying the casket and doing some, that's a Telescam thing. Yes, Discord supports memes. Yes, Discord supports stickers. Yes, Discord supports emojis. I can't stand it. Yes, it does. It's not the purpose of it by default. If you're reacting to a game, then absolutely. But we're talking a serious conversation here about restoring a cryptocurrency where people have lost significant amounts of wealth. To me, as a professional personal opinion, it is improper to be sitting there freaking out or getting pissed off or just giving up like the Young Bucks on AEW because you don't get your way of putting garbage into the Discord channel. That's how I feel about it anyway. Quote, being too strict and removing funny content. I don't know. This is Telescam, mind you. That's where it's coming from. The whole point of a moderator is to moderate the chat and keep it on target. That's why I don't think that there is such a meme channel, because if there was a meme channel, you normally wouldn't have a moderator, because it wouldn't matter, because a meme isn't moderated. A moderator is designed to keep it clean and keep things on target and keep things on topic. That's their job. That's what they're in some cases paid to do. Terror Rebels isn't, but that's what they're designed for. They're designed to keep things on track. They're designed to keep things civil, arguably. So if there was a mod that ultimately banned this person, that means they were in a normal channel where normal people with normal wealth that was lost was trying to have a conversation. And this person probably passed one of the memes, likely a meme that was making fun of the people trying to get their money back, which is what probably got them banned. That's my theory. I wasn't there. And then, quote, I am not supporting the acts of aggression. This we call Snowflake. And I'm not talking the technology Snowflake for databases. I'm talking, this is Snowflake. This is triggered. This is panties in a bunch. This is butt hurt. That's what that is. Act of aggression because you got moderated in a channel. Don't get me wrong. You do have triggered devs in Discord, triggered devs in Reddit, triggered devs on Telescam, yes, you do have triggered admins. It's a normal thing. It sucks when they're truly triggered. I just listened to a Twitter Spaces with Kim.com, who's richer than all of us put together, probably. And he's talking about the cause of inflation, which we know it is the excessive printing of wealth. We also know lesser countries follow what the United States does. So they just printed themselves because, well, the US is doing it. They're the top economy. And he's making the case, and he's perfectly correct in what it is. And the admin is cutting him off because that person doesn't agree and accuses Kim.com of going on a Russian misinformation campaign when all the dude said was, no, US printed money. Other countries followed and printed money. That's what caused inflation. You're taught this in college. And I know if you're in the US education system is failing people. I got it. Some people may not have gone to college. I got it. No problem. When people tell you, though, that did go to college or that do have this knowledge, they tell you this is what it is. You're supposed to listen to them of the source of inflation and try to learn something, not get triggered. So I know that there are triggered admins. I'm not suggesting this didn't happen, that he got some admin that got set off triggered because of some meme he put. I'm saying that as a moderator, that's what they were hired to do. Move on, go to a different place to have your conversations. If you like the memes, go back to Telescam. They welcome all kinds of crazy. They'll never ban you for a meme. Go to Telescam. That's what it's for. But Terror Rebels has chosen Discord. That means you play by their rules. At the end of the day, that's what it is. That's the beauty of true communities. I would also credit, ultimately, Discord for being a lot more civil, generally speaking, than Telescam. So for me, I'm okay with moderators doing that if we knew, and in this case, Terror Rebels, we knew they're trying to have serious conversation. We're dealing with people that are very frustrated. They lost a lot of money due to no fault of their own, and this idiot Doe rug pull cost them significant amounts of money. Unfortunately, some of them went YOLO and gave their life savings to this business because they believed in it, only to have it washed in a matter of seconds. And now they don't know if it's coming back, and they're really on edge because they want their money back. I'm sympathetic to this, and I understand why some people might have been overly sensitive to the point that they banned this dude. But to get so butthurt that you're going to just basically quit like the freaking Young Bucks because you can't post a meme in a channel of people trying to get their money back, I'm not going to cuss on this weekly like I normally would do. Everybody knows what my response would have been if this was not the weekly, and I'll probably do a follow-on about this nonsense because I was stunned seeing that you do that and then get set off, and this is a Telescam byproduct. Telescam has promoted this notion that you are entitled. It's entitlement. You're entitled to react a certain different way. This person then, quote, hey, Binance, did you know anyone has a right to request a boss attack should they feel decentralization is threatened? All it takes is one Satoshi and you're dead. This is called a threat, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to make sure you're careful in this kind of statement. And if you don't know what the heck he's talking about, I want to explain, because I'm cool with the cool kids and what they're talking about. This is a dark web message. A boss attack is essentially a hit, right? You put a hit out on somebody. And they're saying that, and this is a real thing, by the way, in the dark web, there are outlets where you can pay to have somebody put a hit out on somebody else. This is a real thing. This is not a joke. The problem is it's not only illegal to make a threat, it's a national security level in the United States. So when you do this and your dumb, I almost cussed, self chose to put it on a public Twitter forum tied to a username where Twitter forces you to link to a phone number that's traced back to you, I have to start thinking this has to be the definition of, in Telescam does this, right? The definition of idiot, the definition of child, the definition of immature, and everything wrong with cryptocurrency. People that get set off to the point they can't control their emotions, and they do stupid, illogical things that don't solve the problem at all, simply because this individual is upset and freaked and triggered. It's people like this, by the way, and I'll say it, I don't care because it's my show. It's people like this are who you should have on watch lists for mass shootings. I'll say that. They're giving you a warning. They're giving you a warning that they don't care right now about, I'll just make a statement that's essentially a threat and essentially a warning. This is the person I'd have locked up for this tweet because they are at risk for later doing a mass shooting up a school somewhere, because apparently it's not past them to hire somebody to put out a hit. So why is it past them to hire somebody to go shoot up a school or do it themselves? This is the kind of idiot that should go to jail. This is the kind of idiot cryptocurrency should not celebrate, support, or welcome. And the fact that this person is allowed to have a public outlet like a Twitter, and it's still up even now, almost a week later, over a week later, and Twitter won't do anything about that, but they'll completely ban a person over a jab in somebody's arm. That's the problem we got, folks. And that's why I wanted to speak about this, because in cryptocurrency, we can't allow that. We can't allow that, because that's going to get your Genslers, and I'll get to him in a second, and everybody else to just say, see, that's why we need to lock this crypto down, because all it's doing is creating mass shooters and hitmen, and it's a shady business like the mob back in the 60s and the 70s. We got to get on this. Dude. This should not be allowed. It should not be celebrated. In order to get rid of it, we got to get rid of Telescam, because Telescam promotes this crap. There's all that in Telescam. That's why I don't go there anymore, because this is normal up in there. And it's a wild west. So I said I was going to get to it. I will get to it after this next update. Chuck Schumer. If you're not in the United States, you don't know who Chuck Schumer is. Chuck Schumer is in the Senate in the United States, so he's part of Congress. And then we have Nancy Pelosi, the bitter witch of the, I almost cussed, bitter witch of the beast on the House side in Congress. These two arguably have done more damage to the United States outside of Joe Biden himself than anybody in recent history, because I want to explain it. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are two who respond to the voices of social media in what they do. Chuck Schumer is one of those that had, back in 2020 and then 2021, he was using the word stimmy to refer to the stimulus checks people were waiting on, which was just a pittance to try to get voters, support. And all it did is increase tax debt. Chuck Schumer has largely tried to, basically embrace AOC and her farting cows crap. Chuck and Nancy Pelosi on the other side has made all sorts of statements damaging to the country. Well, Chuck Schumer was caught at a restaurant very recently making a statement, and he was overheard saying that Pelosi basically is the blowout in November, saying that Pelosi, as in the House, it's going to be a blowout and Pelosi's out of there. Pelosi's been serving in government probably longer than anybody else I can think of outside the Supreme Court. She has been there for ages, and people have been critical of the term limits. Why is it that somebody can serve so damn long? It's because of the way our system works. Our system is for the people, allegedly, that they should vote people out. Well, you try to. The problem is that those people are very smart about what they do when they do. So when we see things like Joe Biden doing I'll just get rid of this student debt of $30,000, and I'll do this over here of giving you a check for $600, and I'll do this to give you a check for $1,500, and all these little things that they do here and there, and this whole push for electric cars and convincing people that we got to get rid of gas vehicles. All these things, what they do is they cater to a certain segment of our population. that population's too young to understand how damaging those are until it's too late. So by the time we get to this future state they're trying to rush to, many of us will be dead and off the earth, so it won't bother us. But today, we're impacted by these. Jobs are impacted, the cost of gas is impacted, inflation's sky high, and all this. So when Schumer says it's going to be a blowout, basically we're going to get rid of Pelosi in the House, this is actually huge because it means that they know their place now. They understand they're in trouble. All the stuff that they were trying to do to keep their positions ain't gonna work, because what they've done is they've damaged the heartland. They've damaged mid-America, the people, the hard workers, the blue collar, the people like myself who I don't mind working for a living. I just want to make sure it's fair. And I'm not being treated like a child by my employer, and I have to go into business for myself, and I want the opportunity to do that, and I want to be left alone. If I want to have a lawn, I want to be left alone and not be told to rip it out. And those outside the US, that's a real thing, by the way. I want to have what I want. That's all I want, and many people are the same. So Schumer's acknowledgement gets us to that point. It gets the reality setting in with them, which has been missing. They assumed that, no, that we're making people happy because they're listening to social media. And social media is the minority voice. Everybody's not on Twitter. And I guarantee you the vast majority of people never will be because they don't care. They go to their local newspaper, even now, to get the real news. They might watch TV. If they do, they're going to Fox News. You already know how Fox News is telling people. This is tone deaf. The fact that they, for so long, assumed that their jobs were never at risk and they're not going anywhere, that's tone deafness. And they were so much in a bubble of their own. This is popping that. This is saying, no, we got some problems here and we need to get something. We got to do something about it. And so they're desperate. That's why you're seeing all these things coming out now of desperation, like that law of the Inflation Reduction Act, which ain't going to reduce inflation. All that is a byproduct of them and their bubble and their tone deafness. Well, he also said in the same meeting, allegedly, that he believes that Donald Trump is going to run in 2024. Mind you, Donald Trump is pretty dang old. It's not guaranteed he'll live that long. And there's nobody else that speaks the way he does and resonates to that base the way he does, short of maybe Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is pretty much needed in Florida. So I think he's going to run again. I could be wrong. Maybe he does run for president. Ron DeSantis would be the only person who could compete at that level because Ron DeSantis understands the voice of general America, not the voice of the minority. He damn sure doesn't listen to social media voices at all, does he? He is, no, I'm doing the opposite of what social media tells me I should do, because chances are that's just ill thought out, like Common Core, right? I think Ron DeSantis will be a decent president. I just think he's needed in Florida where it's not for him. If Trump's still alive at that time and he still has the same energy, which is amazing, I don't know what, almost said something, but I don't know what he's taking, what supplements, that's the word, supplements he's taking to keep the same energy at that age, because I know how old the man is. He's old as dirt, and his kids can't hang with him. If he does go 2024, I do think he'd have a good chance. However, he can't have his kids involved. He cannot have any of them involved, number one. He's got to make better picks in who he selects to run with him. He's got to have better picks in who he puts in places. He's got to be smarter about how he communicates. Overall, all of this has to happen. If he's going to do 2024, he's got to be smarter about it this time, because now he knows the game's rigged against him in some places, and it's just him and his personality in other places. So that's a double whammy. You got to figure it out and get smarter the next time around. Lessons learned. That's probably his biggest weakness is, do you learn from your mistakes the first time around? I don't know that he will. Hopefully he does. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Speaking of our government, talk about Gary Gensler, right? Gary Gensler came out and he made a claim that I don't disagree with. The SEC, when I say Gary Gensler, he represents the SEC. The SEC has long said that anything of a certain nature is a security. And as a security, it needs to be regulated. And he wants these organizations, largely the exchanges, but also some of these other, like a Voyager or the crypto, the Celsius of the world. He wants them to register, which is a very painful process, mind you. He wants them to go through the hoops to make them happy, to know what it is. And then, of course, all that data flows to the IRS and et cetera. Well, he's basically said, anytime it's a proof of stake cryptocurrency, it's technically subject to securities laws. Of Of course, this includes now Ethereum, which has gone to proof of stake, and excludes Bitcoin, which is still proof of work. The reason I'm talking about this here is that's a very important distinction I don't think people are resonating with, and they should. I'm going to talk about what he said in more specifics because I think it's important in understanding why proof of stake is the whole lynch on this one. Quote, Chairman Gary Gensler reportedly said cryptos and intermediaries that allow holders to stake, which is proof of stake, right? Their crypto may define it as a security under the Howey test. The Howey test, I'm not going to bore you here with. The Howey test has been in place for ages, applies largely to anything that they're evaluating to determine if it's a security, and it's a set of questions. And the problem with the Howey test is that it was never modernized for cryptocurrency. It is on the stock side and pretty dang easy. Never modernized for cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a bit different in how you assess whether something fits the Howey test or not. And the big differentiator is around this idea of profit. So that's the real question, is profit driven. Quote, Gensler went on to say intermediaries offering staking services to its customers looks very similar with some changes to labeling to lending. So when we say intermediary offering staking, Coinbase is a great example. KuCoin is a great example. I believe Gate.io still does. Pretty much all of them do. You own a cryptocurrency, it's sitting in their hot wallet, and they offer you a percentage of benefit. That's a staking. It's not staking on the chain, it's staking within their deal, but it's still a stake, and then you get something out of this. Here's where it gets kind of problematic, right? Quote, Gary said allowing holders to stake coins results in the investing public anticipating profits based on the efforts of others. In his mind, if there's something that this entity is enabling to happen where there's an expectation of profit because of that something, it basically makes it a security. That's every staking, because the only reason you would stake is an expectation of profit. Here's the problem. In a staking for a Coinbase, I'll pick on Coinbase because that's what I have. In a staking for Coinbase, you are directly profiting, and you can turn it off. You can say, I don't want this benefit of it. I just want to hold the cryptocurrency, because they don't know what's going to happen with it, so they give you the choice of it. If you stake your tokens, let's say Hex. Hex has the staking, and I said that website's garbage, but staking for the Hex, and you earn more Hex. On the Luna, Terra station, you can stake your Luna Classic, earn rewards, has a value to UST. You're profiting off the stake. And by doing so, by giving the tokens and by getting the profit, the statement Gensler's trying to make is you have now moved into a security because the profit is secured by the stake. Seems simple, right? Quote, the SEC has previously said they don't see Ether as a security. Mind you, that was at the proof of work stage. Quote, with both the CFTC and the SEC agreeing it acted much more like a commodity, which is how Bitcoin is perceived today. Bitcoin is perceived as a commodity. There is no way to generally benefit off Bitcoin in of itself. You can lend your Bitcoin, but you're not directly benefiting from a doing. You're lending it. You don't have it at that point. You're lending it out, right? So commodities trading is treated differently. Commodities and commodities futures trading and that kind of thing, where you say, I'm going to lend my crypto out for somebody else to do futures trading. You're not directly benefiting from anything because your crypto's not in your wallet. You could incur a total loss off the business for all it cares to. The reason I think that this is a bit of a red herring is because when you have staking, you have arguably a greater risk of total loss. You are entrusting just the same, your assets into something. And just the fact that something pays you, you still could lose this core asset. I'll give you a great example, EarnHub. EarnHub's whole mechanic with AnyFlect was you give them the tokens, they stake in there, and it pays you reflections and whichever other. But then when they shut down, you lost your whole stake except for when they paid you what they could in scary chain capital. But there's that risk of total loss is still there. To me, the question that they have to solve is just because the staking's there doesn't mean you can't incur a total loss. That's the same as commodities. So to me, that's the pair, as it should really be treated as a commodity. My gut tells me at some point, if we get the blowout in November, they're going to say, no, this is all treated commodities trading. it should be regulated as commodities trading, which makes it largely safer under Bitcoin. Then the Ripple outcome is going to be the icing on the cake, where we're going to finally get a decision from a court of law that says it's either X or Y. If it's X, everything's off the hook, leave it the heck alone for the next 5 years, because they'll write something that says for the next 5 years, this is what it is, and 5 years from now, we'll look at it again. And I believe that 5 years from now, we'll be right back where we started, saying it's a commodity, and finally we'll make it go away. That's my gut. If we don't get the blowout in November and we keep the same idiots in office, I do believe that at some point, everything's going to be turned into securities, everything's going to be regulated, and then you're going to see exchanges pull out of the US. That's my gut. That's why I think we need to have the blowout, because we need to have common sense, because right now we don't have it, unfortunately. That's all for the news, my closing. And I'm excited to present that, because I've never done it publicly, and I'm going to do the sneak peek publicly. My Triad members already know this. Now the public gets to be at least aware, and I'm still not going to give specifics. I'd like to welcome everybody here to what I call Triad Crypto. I'm going to explain what Triad Crypto is at a high level. I'm not going to go deep because I don't want to spoil it, because my members should get first dibs on it. If you have not listened to any of my YouTube videos, shame on you. That's okay. It's fine. If you have not listened to podcasts at cryptotalkradio.net, shame on you, but that's okay. Triad is, we have a community aspect. Anybody that follows any of my channels, Discord, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, right? You are part of the community because you have followed for presumably some value. The Triad is a paid member tier of the community, and they get access to certain perks. One of those tiers will get access, and you can read this yourself on cryptotalkradio.net. I won't spend a lot of time on it because I'm closing, but they get access to any and every cryptocurrency, past, present, and future, that I choose to make available for them. One of those is one that I'm creating, or actually have created, and will give to them as part of the membership. They don't have to pay for it. They don't have to invest in it. There's no staking for it. There's no, I even call out down here, it is completely exempt from the Howey test because of the way it's built. And for those that are skeptical, I understand what it takes to make it work. That's the impetus for me doing it. And I want to benefit my members for supporting me. I don't have the same risk of disruption because of the way it's built. It literally cannot be exploited by whales. It's literally impossible. And when I say literally impossible, I mean literally impossible. You cannot price influence this one. And it's a community token the way we tried to do it before fiat got involved. Well, here's the catch, right? My statement here, definition of insanity, and we're trying something different. So the cryptocurrency is completely different. Nobody pays for it. They don't need to. But the value it's going to bring when I introduce the second token is something nobody else has done, not this way, where I've completely removed the risk. All it asks is that people are Triad members because I want them to feel rewarded for what they've done. In addition, there will be distributions of cryptocurrency. So this Triad Crypto is a brand. It's a new brand. It is a new approach. It's a new everything. And by the way, I custom coded this site because I got skills this way, but I also wanted to have the dashboard for them to see what they have going and prove, because everybody will be skeptical and I want people to be skeptical. And over time, I just want to prove. Let's prove that community can work. Let's prove that that's the right answer so that we don't get into garbage like this, where because of kids that use the word jeet, use the word keck, getting all into business because it's greed driven, rather than do that, rather than worry about it, I'll shrug it off, do my own thing, and prove that it can work if it's done right. And then watch as people copy if I get it right. And if I get it wrong, nobody's lost anything because there's no risk anymore because of the way it's designed, because of that knowledge necessary to do it right, rather than just a greed motivation. So I'm excited to deliver that to them and move the Triad forward and work as hard as I can harder than anybody else does. And I'm a one-man show doing a podcast, doing a YouTube, actually doing 3 podcasts, doing a YouTube, doing Try Crypto, managing and developing and everything else. Once you get to that point, that's what I always want. I don't want to raise the bar. I can't. I got to be the bar and have other people step up. Because at worst, other people will step up and do better. And the other nice part about this one is this token will be stronger during bear periods as built, because he's purposely built to mitigate bear period stress, bear period issues. He actually likes bear periods. If you're intrigued, all you got to do is join the triad. And I'm not telling you to join it. I'm saying if you're intrigued, that's what you need to do, because that's the only way you get more data now. Once I get closer and it's fully vetted and the dashboard's out to them and they've got their distributions and everything else, at that point, then it would go full public and then you learn about it then. I'm saying if you're impatient, right, you'd have to join the triad for any specifics. But if you're curious about triad, cryptotalkradio.net is the first place to go, and you can hit triad and it tells you on the tier which one is eligible for this one. And then at that point, you're right in the mix and in our channels and our weekly updates, which are private. Then you get more information about what it is and what's happening and what's going on and more details. I'll say this very clear. I'm not telling you to join it, because you can always wait. Once it's out, you'll see it. You'll see it. You will hear about it. I promise you'll hear about it. You'll see it. You hear about it. Just wait it out. I just want to make sure you know that's what I'm working on off to the side, because I'm trying to prove that crypto can be better than crap like this. That's the motivation behind me doing it. Crap like this. And I've been working on it for months, because this is a constant theme, this garbage right here, that I think I could do a better job. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. Given that, I'll stop talking and see if I have any questions in both our Twitch and YouTube channels. And Twitch remains awesome as usual, because it just seems to just work. Otherwise, it's breakfast time. Cool beans. I'll wrap up. Thank you for those dialing in live. If you think of something after the fact, or if you're viewing this after the fact, feel free to leave the comments below. I respond to each and every one of them. They are screened because of the post chain spammers, but they will be posted and I will respond to them after the fact. And then, of course, you'll be able to view this after it records. I will check and just make sure YouTube was happy. It gave me a couple of alerts, but nothing catastrophic. I'll just check it, make sure it's good. And then if it's good, then it'll be published and good to go. But leave comments. I will respond on those. Again, the best way to learn about everything that we're doing is to follow us on the Discord channel. Getting to our Discord is simply cryptotalkradio.net/Discord. Will take you straight to our channel, where we share information about everything that we're doing on the community side, regardless of try it or not, but on the community side. And then, of course, the podcast continues and is my primary, because I'm not a YouTuber. If you're new, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a podcaster that happens to have a YouTube channel. That's why my delivery is so much different than everybody else's, and hopefully it's appealing to you there. Until next week, we will be back at the same time, same day, probably every Sunday. We record at 8 a.m. Pacific, because I'm trying to get a more consistent cadence on that one. I will have some uploads during the week for different cryptos as I go back to my general cryptocurrency coverage that I was doing before. That falls under the Basic Cryptonomics banner. But this is a weekly deal every Sunday for those that are curious. If you want to subscribe, feel free to. You don't have to. You can always follow the link on our Twitter. We have it posted if you want to follow it there as well. Until next time, take care. By the way, I'll say that here because I never say it here, haven't. Just make sure with cryptocurrency and this business, make sure that above all else, keep food on your table, keep a roof over your head. Don't YOLO into this. Don't throw all of stuff. Don't throw your savings. Don't put yourself in undue risk. It is your money. I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm telling you what to do. Don't do that. Don't put yourself out. It's not worth it. At the end of the day, it's not worth it. I'm old. Okay. So I understand now the mistakes I made and money I blew that had I not done, I'd have been in a much better position now where 2021 would have been a completely different outcome than what it was. Don't go all in on this stuff. Invest what you can afford to lose. That's not just a catchphrase. It's important. Invest what you know is throwaway, total F money, to quote Virgil from WWF. It's money you don't care about. And I know that limits profit potential. If you're the gambler and you want to risk it, I celebrate you for that. As long as you admit it to yourself, acknowledge that that's what you are, no problem. I'm saying if you don't know and you're new to it, or you're just not sure, you haven't gone in that much, don't go all in. I don't believe it's worth it, frankly. I think it's just going to put you out, especially if it's a garbage project. If it's one of the big players, I still wouldn't do it, because right now we're still in a recovery phase. We haven't come out yet. So until we come out, until we know where we're going, I don't think it's good to do it. Some of that's reading signals. I'm saying from the signals I see, we got a little bit ways to go down until we hit the bottom before we start going back up. Will we go back up? I say yes. How high? Nobody knows. I don't know. But I do say we'll go back up. I'm still going to maintain, I think it depends on if we get a blowout in November. I believe people are waiting to see November's outcome. I believe people want to know if we're going to get common sense people in government in the United States. And I believe that would be the trigger for people to say, okay, we got people in here who are just as greedy as we are. We're going all in on this YOLO. I believe that's what we're seeing. And I'm probably the only YouTube channel saying that statement I just told you. Time will tell whether I'm right and wrong on that one. Until next time, though, take care.